Most car owners think hitting 200,000 miles is some kind of miracle. But what if I told you that's barely braking in a properly maintained vehicle? Today, I'm revealing 19 bulletproof habits that can push your car beyond 500,000 miles without a single major repair. These aren't feel-good maintenance tips your manual suggests. These are field-tested strategies used by fleet operators, taxi drivers, and the rare few who've cracked the code on automotive longevity. But first, let me prove this isn't just theory. I've personally taken 3 different vehicles past the half-million mark. My 2003 Honda Accord hit 520,000 miles before I sold it, still running strong. A delivery driver I know just rolled 680,000 miles on his Toyota Corolla using these exact methods. The difference isn't luck or brand loyalty, it's habits. Specific, intentional habits that most people never learn because the automotive industry profits more from replacement than longevity. But today, that changes. Let's dive in. Habit number 1. Master the art of gradual warm-ups. Most engine damage happens in the first 60 seconds after a cold start, and it's completely preventable. Here's what's really happening under your hood when you fire up a cold engine. Oil sits thick like honey in your crankcase. Metal parts have contracted from cooling overnight. Tolerances are tighter than when everything's heated up and expanded properly. For those crucial first moments, your engine is running on whatever oil film clung to surfaces from your last drive. Push it hard too soon, and you're grinding metal on metal where lubrication hasn't reached yet. The damage is invisible but cumulative. Each harsh cold start scores cylinder walls, wears rings, and stresses bearings. Do it enough times, and what should be a 300,000-mile engine gives out at 150,000. But there's a better way. Smart operators follow the 2-minute rule. After starting, let the engine idle just long enough for oil pressure to stabilize and initial circulation to begin. Then drive gently, keeping RPMs under 2,500 until the temperature gauge starts climbing toward normal. No heavy acceleration, no high revs, no loading the engine until everything's properly warmed and lubricated. This single habit extends engine life by preventing the kind of wear that shows up as oil consumption, blow-by, and premature bearing failure years down the road. Commercial fleets that enforce warm-up protocols routinely see engines lasting twice as long as those that don't. Habit number 2. Change your oil based on conditions, not just mileage. The 3,000-mile rule is outdated, but so is blindly following extended intervals without considering how you actually drive. Real longevity comes from understanding what breaks down your oil and changing it before protection fails. Modern synthetic oils can absolutely handle 7,500 to 10,000-mile intervals under ideal conditions. But ideal conditions don't exist for most drivers. Short trips, stop-and-go traffic, extreme temperatures, dusty environments, and towing all accelerate oil degradation. Miss these factors, and you could be running on compromised oil for thousands of miles. The professionals use oil analysis. For $30, a lab can tell you exactly how your oil is holding up, what metals are wearing, and whether you can safely extend or need to shorten your intervals. After a few tests, you'll know your engine's exact needs instead of guessing. But there's a simpler approach that works almost as well. Check your oil monthly, not just the level, but the condition. Fresh oil is translucent amber or black if it's conventional. As it ages, it darkens and thickens. When it starts looking like chocolate syrup or you can feel grit between your fingers, it's time to change regardless of mileage. The key is consistency. Pick an interval that errs on the conservative side for your driving conditions and stick to it religiously. A slightly early oil change never hurt an engine. A slightly late one can destroy it. Habit number 3. Treat your air filter like a lifeline, because that's exactly what it is. Every minute your engine runs, it's gulping hundreds of cubic feet of air. That air carries dust, pollen, debris, and microscopic particles that can turn your precision-machined cylinders into sandpaper chambers. Most people forget their air filter exists until the service reminder pops up. By then, it's often so clogged it's starving the engine of airflow and letting contaminants sneak past. A dirty filter doesn't just reduce power and fuel economy, it lets abrasive particles into your combustion chambers where they score cylinder walls and accelerate ring wear. Here's how the high-mileage crowd handles it. They inspect their air filter every 10,000 miles, regardless of what the manual says. In dusty climates or heavy traffic areas, they check it even more frequently. A quick visual inspection takes 30 seconds and can prevent thousands in engine damage. Look for obvious dirt buildup, but also check the filter media itself. A good filter should still show some white or light-colored material between the pleats. If it's uniformly dark or you can't see through it when held up to light, it's time for replacement. Don't fall for the cleaning trick with paper filters. Tapping them out or blowing them with compressed air might remove surface dirt, but it can also damage the filter media, creating gaps that let particles through. For the cost of a new filter versus a potential engine rebuild, replacement is always the smart choice. Habit number 4, monitor coolant like a hawk because overheating kills more engines than anything else. Your cooling system is constantly fighting a losing battle against heat, corrosion, and pressure. Win that battle, and your engine will outlast the rest of the car. Lose it, and you're looking at head gasket failures, warped heads, and complete engine destruction. The mistake most people make is treating coolant as a set-it-and-forget-it fluid. They top it off when it's low and ignore it until something goes wrong. But coolant doesn't just transfer heat. It protects every metal surface in your cooling system from corrosion, prevents cavitation in your water pump, and maintains proper pH balance throughout the system. Over time, those protective additives wear out. The coolant may still look fine, but it's lost its ability to prevent internal corrosion. Scale builds up in passages, reducing heat transfer. Acids form that eat away at gaskets and seals. The water pump starts cavitating as lubrication breaks down. Professional operators flush their cooling systems every 60,000 miles or 5 years, whichever comes first. They use only the manufacturer-specified coolant type, never mix different formulations, and always use distilled water for dilution. They also test the coolant annually with pH strips to catch problems before they become disasters. But here's the part most people miss. They monitor the system for leaks constantly. A slow coolant leak isn't just inconvenient, it's a warning sign that something's failing. Catch it early, and you might need a $20 hose. Ignore it until the engine overheats, and you're looking at thousands in damage. The high-mileage secret is simple vigilance. Check coolant levels monthly when the engine's cold. Look for signs of leakage around hoses, the radiator, and the water pump. If you're adding coolant more than once a year, there's a leak that needs fixing before it becomes a catastrophe. These first 4 habits alone can add 200,000 miles to your engine's life, but we're just getting started. The next habit addresses something that destroys more transmissions than anything else, and most drivers do it every single day without realizing the damage they're causing. Habit number 5. Stop destroying your transmission with lazy shifting habits. Every time you slam from reverse to drive while still rolling, you're asking thousands of dollars worth of precision clutch packs to act like brake pads. Do it enough times, and that's exactly what they'll become: expensive brake pads that need replacing. Here's what actually happens inside your transmission during these moments. Those clutch bands are designed to engage smoothly when components are moving at similar speeds. Force them to grab while there's still momentum in the opposite direction, and you're creating massive friction and heat. That heat breaks down the transmission fluid, hardens seals, and literally burns away the friction material that makes shifts possible. The worst part? You feel that clunk when you do it. That's not your transmission settling in. That's expensive parts taking punishment they were never designed to handle. Commercial drivers who manage to get 400,000 miles out of automatic transmissions follow one simple rule: complete stop, then shift. Every time, no exceptions. But it goes deeper than just stopping completely. Smart operators also use their parking brake religiously, especially on any incline. When you park on a hill and let the transmission hold the weight of your vehicle, you're putting enormous stress on a tiny metal pawl that's about as thick as your finger. That pawl wasn't designed to be a permanent anchor for a 3-ton vehicle. One snapped parking pawl can jam your entire transmission, turning a simple parking job into a multi-thousand-dollar rebuild. The fix is simple. Engage the parking brake first, then shift to park. This takes the load off the transmission and puts it where it belongs, on the brake system that's actually designed to hold your car in place. Habit number 6. Understand that your fuel system is more fragile than you think. Running on fumes isn't just risky because you might get stranded. It's systematically destroying your fuel pump, contaminating your injectors, and creating conditions that can leave you with a repair bill that costs more than many cars are worth. Modern fuel pumps are designed to run submerged in gasoline. That fuel acts as both coolant and lubricant for the pump motor. Drop below a quarter tank regularly, and you're forcing that pump to work harder while running hotter. The inevitable result is premature failure of a component that can cost upward of $800 to replace on many vehicles. But the pump failure is just the beginning. When fuel levels run low, the pump starts stirring up all the sediment and debris that naturally settles in the bottom of your tank. That contamination gets pulled through your fuel system, clogging filters, fouling injectors, and creating performance problems that can take months to diagnose properly. Fleet managers learned this lesson decades ago. Their vehicles never see the bottom quarter of the tank, not because they're paranoid about running out of gas, but because they understand the total cost of ownership. A fuel pump replacement isn't just the part cost. It's downtime, labor, and often cascading problems with other fuel system components that were stressed by the failing pump. The high-mileage approach is ruthlessly simple. Treat the quarter tank mark like empty. Refuel every time you hit that point, and your fuel system will outlast the rest of the vehicle. It's a small discipline that prevents a major expense. Habit number 7. Rotate your tires like your suspension depends on it, because it absolutely does. Uneven tire wear isn't just about replacing tires more often. It's about the hidden damage being done to ball joints, tie rod ends, wheel bearings, and other expensive suspension components that are trying to compensate for tires that aren't rolling true. When your front tires wear faster than the rears, or when one side wears differently than the other, your suspension geometry gets thrown off. Components that were designed to work within specific tolerances are now fighting against uneven forces with every mile you drive. Ball joints wear out faster, wheel bearings develop play, steering components loosen up as they're constantly fighting to keep the vehicle tracking straight. The professionals rotate every 5,000 miles without fail. They also check alignment annually, not because they love spending money on maintenance, but because they understand that a $50 tire rotation and $100 alignment can prevent thousands in suspension repairs down the road. But here's what most people miss. Tire rotation isn't just about moving tires around, it's about inspection. Every rotation is an opportunity to check tire pressure, look for unusual wear patterns, and spot problems before they become failures. A tire that's wearing on the inside edge is telling you about an alignment issue. A tire that's cupping or scalloping is warning you about worn shocks or struts. Catch these problems during routine rotation, and you can fix them before they cascade into bigger issues. Ignore them, and you'll eventually face the perfect storm of multiple worn suspension components all failing around the same time. Habit number 8. Change your spark plugs before they cost you a catalytic converter. Most drivers wait until they feel misfires or see a check engine light before thinking about spark plugs. By then, those failing plugs have been sending unburned fuel into the exhaust system for thousands of miles, slowly destroying the catalytic converter from the inside out. A catalytic converter operates at temperatures that can reach 1,000 to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. It's designed to handle the byproducts of complete combustion. But when spark plugs start failing, they create incomplete combustion that sends raw fuel downstream. That fuel burns inside the converter, creating temperatures that can literally melt the ceramic substrate into a solid mass. Once that happens, you're not just looking at a spark plug replacement anymore. You're staring at a catalytic converter replacement that can cost anywhere from $800 to $2,500 depending on your vehicle. All because you waited too long to replace plugs that might have cost $50 total. The high-mileage strategy is preemptive replacement based on time and mileage, not symptoms. Most modern plugs are good for 100,000 miles, but smart operators change them at 80,000 miles in harsh conditions or 90,000 miles in normal driving. It's cheap insurance against expensive downstream failures. But timing isn't the only consideration. The type of plug matters too. Stick with the exact specification your manufacturer recommends. Don't upgrade to platinum or iridium plugs unless your engine was designed for them. Don't downgrade to cheaper plugs to save money. The few dollars you save on plugs can cost you thousands in converter damage if the plugs don't perform exactly as your engine management system expects. These habits might seem simple, but they're the foundation of automotive longevity. Each one prevents a specific type of failure that can cascade into much larger problems. Master these basics, and you're already ahead of 90% of drivers. Real secrets are still, but the coming. Habit number 9. Treat your differential like the forgotten hero it is. While everyone obsesses over engine oil changes, most drivers completely ignore the thick gear oil that keeps their differential from turning into expensive scrap metal. That heavy-duty lubricant down there is working harder than almost any other fluid in your vehicle, and when it fails, the results are catastrophic. Inside your differential housing, massive steel gears are sliding against each other under tremendous pressure every time you turn a corner or hit the gas. Unlike the rolling contact in your engine, these are hypoid gears that slide and mesh with tremendous force. The specialized gear oil contains sulfur compounds specifically designed to handle this extreme pressure sliding action. But here's what most people don't realize. Differentials breathe. They have vents that let air in and out as temperatures change. Every time you drive through a puddle or wash your car, that vent can suck in moisture. Over months and years, that moisture turns your gear oil into a corrosive soup that eats gears from the inside out. I've seen differentials that looked like someone poured glitter into the housing when the oil was drained. Those metal flakes were once precision-cut gear teeth. The rebuild cost? Often more than the vehicle is worth. But it's completely preventable with one simple habit. Change your differential oil every 50,000 miles religiously. Use only the exact specification called for in your manual. Most require 75W to 90 gear oil, but some need specific additives or completely different formulations. Get it wrong, and you can actually accelerate wear instead of preventing it. The high-mileage operators I know treat this like a religious ritual. They mark their calendars, set reminders, and never let it slide. Because once those gears start howling on turns, it's already too late. Prevention costs maybe $40 in parts and an hour of time. Replacement costs thousands and leaves you stranded. Habit number 10, master the lost art of belt and hose inspection. These rubber components are the circulatory system of your engine, and when they fail, the results range from inconvenient to catastrophic. The worst happen without warning to part? Most failures drivers who never learned what to look for. Modern serpentine belts don't crack like the old V-belts used to. Instead, they wear from the inside out, losing their grip on pulleys gradually until they slip or snap completely. By the time you hear squealing, you're already in the danger zone, but there are warning signs if you know where to look. Professional mechanics use a belt wear gauge to measure the depth of the ribs on serpentine belts. When those ribs wear down to the point where the gauge sits flush with the belt surface, replacement is overdue. But you don't need special tools to spot trouble. Run your finger along the belt reshaped. They sharp and well-defined. If they're rounded, glazed, or you can see fabric showing through anywhere, that belt is living on borrowed time. Coolant hoses are even more deceptive. They rot from the inside out, weakening where you can't see the damage. A hose can look perfectly fine on the outside while the inner liner is deteriorating. When it finally lets go, it dumps your coolant in seconds, leaving you with a potentially destructive approach is scheduled engine. The smart replacement based on age, not appearance. Most hoses and belts should be replaced every 5 years or 60,000 miles, whichever comes first. It might seem wasteful to replace parts that look fine, but it's cheap insurance against the kind of failure that can total your engine. Here's the insider trick. When you replace one component, replace them all. The labor cost is mostly in accessing the parts, not the parts themselves. Replace the whole system at once, and you won't be back there in 6 months when the next oldest hose decides to fail. Habit number 11. Understand that your brake system is more than just pads and rotors. Most drivers think brake maintenance means changing pads when they start squealing and turning rotors when they get grooved. But the real killer of brake systems is the fluid everyone ignores until something catastrophic happens. Brake fluid is hygroscopic, which means it absorbs moisture from the air even inside sealed brake lines. Over just 2 years, that fluid can absorb enough water to drop its boiling point by over 100 degrees. Under hard braking, that moisture can turn to steam, creating vapor bubbles in your brake lines. When push you the pedal, you're compressing steam instead of fluid, and your brakes simply stop working. But the immediate safety risk is just part of the problem. That moisture also creates internal corrosion that eats away at brake lines, calipers, and the expensive ABS components that can cost more to replace than many cars are worth. I've seen brake lines that looked solid from the outside but were completely rotted through internally. When they finally burst, the results can. The professional be deadly, but solution is simple, almost does nobody years. Regardless it, Flush the brake fluid every 2 of how it looks or miles you've driven. This how many isn't about where fluid is, that it's about chemistry slowly absorbing moisture every day, and there's no way to stop it except by replacing the fluid entirely. Use only the exact DOT specification called for in your manual. .3, .4, and .5 fluids are them, not interchangeable. Mix and you can destroy seals throughout your brake system. The few dollars you might save using the wrong fluid can cost thousands in brake system replacement. Habit number 12. Treat your transmission cooler like the lifesaver it is. If you tow anything loads or live in a hot or heavy climate, your automatic transmission is constantly fighting a battle against heat. Win that battle, and your transmission can last 300,000 miles or more. Lose it, and you'll be shopping for a replacement at 80,000 miles. Here's what most people don't understand. Transmission fluid grease starts breaking down rapidly once it hits 200 Fahrenheit. 4 degrees every 20 increase above that temperature, the fluid life cuts in half. Push it to 260 degrees during a mountain climb or heavy tow, and you can literally cook years of life out of your transmission in a single trip. The factory into your transmission cooler built radiator is designed for normal driving conditions. Add any kind of stress, and it's completely overwhelmed. That's why smart operators add auxiliary transmission coolers as not emergency preventive maintenance, repairs. A good auxiliary cooler can drop transmission temperatures by 30 to 50 degrees under load. That difference can literally double the life of your transmission. The installation is straight the cooler in front. Forward mount of yours gets radiator where good airflow, plummet into the transmission cooler lines, and top off the fluid to account for the extra capacity. The cost is usually under $300 installed, which $3,000 to $5,000 cost seems expensive until you compare it to the of a transmission math, and it's one of the rebuild. Do the best investments you can make in your vehicle's longevity. But here's the critical part. Most people miss. Monitor aftermarket gauge your transmission temperature with an A transmission. Your dashboard doesn't have temperature warning, it's too late. By until the time you get a warning light, internal damage has already begun. Habit number 13. Change your cabin air filter like your health depends on it. Most people think this is just about comfort, but a clogged cabin air filter can actually damage your vehicle's climate control system while that innocent-looking filter does more work than you realize, making you sick in the process. When your cabin filter clogs up, your climate control system has to work harder to move air through the restriction. Blower motors burn out from the extra strain. Evaporator cores ice up from reduced airflow. The whole system runs less efficiently and wears out faster, but the health impact is even worse. A dirty cabin filter becomes a breeding ground for mold, bacteria, and allergens that get blown directly into your face every time you turn air conditioning. Some on the heat or those contaminants can cause serious respiratory problems, especially for people with asthma or allergies. The fix is embarrassingly simple. Change your cabin air filter every 15,000 miles or in dust once a year, whichever comes first, hit every 6 months. They or polluted areas, check filter usually lives behind your glove box and where it is. But here's what Siepert takes less than 5 minutes to replace once you know upgrade to from the amateurs. They ates the pros. A premium, they replace them cabin filter with activate higher quality filters when carbon can remove filters miss. It costs that basic harmful gases, odors, and a few dollars more, but provides dramatically better protection for both you and your climate control system. Habit number 14. Monitor your engine mounts like they're holding your engine together, because they literally are. Most drivers never catastrophically wrong by goes. Think about engine mounts until something then. AI has usually caused hundreds $50 mount engine mounts do more than just hold the thousands of lateral damage. Your dollars and call engine in place. They isolate vibration, control movement during acceleration and braking, and protect everything around the engine from the tremendous forces involved in moving the road. When 3,000-pound vehicle down they fail, those forces get transmitted directly into your vehicle's structure. A bad engine mount lets and lurch the engine twist. That movement with every throttle input puts stress on radiator hoses, vacuum nisses, and exhaust components that were lines, wiring har. I've seen broken, never designed to handle it engine mounts, because everything from cracked radiators to severed wiring harnesses. The scary part is how gradually a slight vibration they fail. You might notice idle that gets worse over time, maybe a little extra noise during acceleration. By symptoms the time they are obvious, the mount has usually deteriorated for months, causing damage throughout the engine bay professional approach. The is annual, the inspection using Test Rev the Who. With an open brake set the parking, have someone rev the engine to about 2,000 RPM while you watch the engine movement. A healthy engine should barely move. If you see more than an inch of movement in any direction, you've got a mount that's either failed or about to fail. Replacement isn't difficult, but timing bad mounts immediately before they cause secondary matters. Replace damage that costs far more than the mount itself. Most engines have 3 or 4 mounts, and it's often wise to replace them all at once since they tend to wear at investment similar rates. Bed engine and GU mounts pays dividends in reduced vibration, quieter operation, and protection bay. It's one for everything else in your engine of those invisible bigger problems down the road. But maintenance items that prevents much perfect even engine mounts can't protect you from the next threat that's hiding, one in plain sight throughout your vehicle's electrical system. Habit number 15. Hunt down electrical gremlins before they multiply. That intermittent problem you've been ignoring isn't going away on its own. It's getting worse, and when electrical issues cascade, they can take down multiple systems at once, leaving you with diagnostic bills that exceed your car's value. Modern vehicles contain over a mile of wiring crammed into spaces that were never designed for it. Every pothole, every engine vibration, every heat cycle slowly works those wires against sharp edges, brackets, and each other. What starts as a tiny nick in the insulation eventually becomes a short circuit that can fry control modules worth thousands of dollars. The professionals know that electrical problems follow patterns. They start small and predictable, then spiral into chaos. That dome light that flickers occasionally? It's probably a loose ground connection that's creating voltage fluctuations throughout your electrical system. That radio that resets itself randomly? There's likely a power supply issue that's also affecting other modules you haven't noticed yet. Here's the approach that saves thousands in diagnostic fees. Once a month, spend 10 minutes checking your electrical systems. Test every light, switch, and accessory. Listen for unusual sounds from motors and actuators. Pay attention to how things feel when you operate them. A window that's slower than usual or a seat that hesitates before moving is telling you about a motor that's struggling. The key is documenting patterns. Keep a simple log of when problems occur. Is it only when it's hot? Only after rain? Only when you first start the car? These details help you catch problems while they're still manageable instead of after they've taken out half your electrical system. Most importantly, never ignore burning smells or flickering lights. These are emergency signals that something is about to fail catastrophically. Pull over immediately and investigate. A few minutes of caution can prevent an electrical fire that totals your vehicle. Habit number 16. Protect your timing chain like the ticking time bomb it can become. Unlike timing belts that give you visible warning signs, timing chains fail internally where you can't see the damage building. When they finally let go, the results are often catastrophic, especially on interference engines where pistons and valves occupy the same space at different times. Timing chains stretch over time as the metal fatigues and the chain links wear. That stretch changes your valve timing, which affects everything from fuel economy to emissions to engine performance. But here's the insidious part. The stretch happens so gradually that you adapt to the declining performance without realizing what's happening. The chain might start rattling on cold starts, but only for a few seconds. You get used to it. The engine might feel slightly less responsive, but you attribute it to age. The fuel economy might drop a bit, but gas prices are always changing anyway. By the time the symptoms are obvious, the chain has often stretched beyond the tensioner's ability to compensate. Professional mechanics listen for timing chain noise during every oil change. They know that cold start rattle lasting more than 10 seconds is a warning sign. They also watch for codes related to cam and crank correlation, which indicate the chain has stretched enough to affect timing. The smart move is replacement based on mileage rather than symptoms. Most timing chains are good for 150,000 to 200,000 miles, but severe service conditions can cut that in half. Replace the entire timing system as a kit, including tensioners, guides, and oil pump drive if applicable. Trying to save money by reusing old components almost always leads to premature failure of the new chain. There you have it. 19 habits that separate the half-million-mile club from everyone else stuck replacing cars every few years. These aren't just maintenance tips. They're the difference between treating your vehicle like a disposable appliance and treating it like the investment it should be. Follow these religiously, and you won't just save thousands in repairs. You'll join the ranks of drivers who measure vehicle life in decades, not years. Your car can absolutely last 500,000 miles or more. The only question is whether you're disciplined enough to make it happen.